Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
It's actually not Halloween. This is how we...
Yeah, it's actually, we're just getting ready. 2 weeks from now.
Yep. So, Philotimo, episode 4. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First of many, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping. You and I actually, this all came about from you and I back probably 7-8 years ago, talking about the lives we wanted to live, how we wanted to live them, kind of realizing that there was more to it than what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Walk around in a park in November, December.
Yeah.
Topic of the day. Asked you what you wanted to talk about, and you came up with a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
but they kind of rooted down to how to best spend your time,
Mm-hmm.
how to utilize your time and the
Yeah.
value of it. So I guess to start off, maybe why?
Well, I would say one of the biggest reasons I fell on that topic is mostly because like 3-4 years ago, I had a lot of life occurrences take place that essentially caused a shift in everything I was doing. Essentially my whole life shifted. A lot of different reasons, a lot of different components. It was right around that time that you were talking about us walking in the park that one morning. But I guess once having these realizations, the next step is to, commit yourself and create action in that direction. So I've realized how precious time is on many different occasions, and I'm reminded of it very often, that life is very short. I watched our grandfather a couple days ago hold my 4-month-old in his hands, and right before my eyes, I was reminded once again that I was looking at the whole span of life, right in front of me. A human coming in and a human going out. And that's it. It's that fast. Somebody could branch off into talking about, perhaps afterlife, or, obviously people have many different beliefs on that and what happens after we, our soul leaves our body. But as for today, I just wanted to cover, the importance of using your time wisely and some of the ways you can do that. And hopefully when you reach the future, if you are lucky enough to live an older age, that you can look back and you won't have regrets. And I think one of the worst regrets we could have in life is that we wasted time. Because without time, if time expires, life expires, everything expires. So time being one of the most important constructs of our lives in and of themselves. So, I would say that most humans, their life is a combination of them searching for reason, purpose, meaning, and, no matter where you're at in life, everyone's at different points in life, but, whoever you are, you're at this one point, you want to go to a whole nother point, assuming that next point is better than where you're at. So you want to go from one place to another, you want to get better while you go there. When you're aiming for something better, a lot of times something that can happen, I notice this in my own life, is that you're placed into a space, sort of like a condition of insufficiency, because you haven't reached that goal yet. One thing to remember is that, we're beasts of burden. All of us humans, we're meant to carry a load. It's meant to be a part of our life. Otherwise, your life, if you don't bear a load or purpose or have any, point of responsibility, you're most likely not going to be fulfilled, and you're going to feel like you're wasting time. So I would say everyone experiences, different struggles in life and different obstacles. And, they kind of present themselves as experiences of, let's say pain, something doesn't go your way. Chemically your body it's gonna throw you off chemically, and you're gonna be upset. You're gonna experience different emotions, but one of the things to remember is that everyone experiences pain in life, and it's really real. Everyone's going through their different problems. But if you can kind of start with just taking some time to think about our reality. Life is, if life is suffering, our reality is equals pain, right? Because life isn't easy. It's hard, and there's a lot of challenges. So if you can accept life is suffering, life is pain, and adopt that, the best medication for that is to live a life that is, you're the best person you can be.
And that sounds like, on the surface, that sounds brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds terrible. It's like life's pain. Like, dude, see a therapist. You're depressed as hell.
Right.
But you can be. There's almost like two ways of thinking on that. One would be like, life is supposed to be happy and great and grand and wonderful, and I'm just going to ignore the entirety of human history. And then when something bad happens, now I'm just beaten down, and now I'm sad, and now I'm just trying to get to that happy phase.
Mm-hmm.
Or the second train of thought, which is kind of what I'm guessing you were talking about,
mm-hmm.
is you can just realize that life is basically survival, and all the pain and suffering that goes along with that. So if that's
mm-hmm.
your foundation, then everything above that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything above that makes you happy. Everything above that brings you joy.
Yeah.
So it's like, you realize hey, life for the entirety of mankind has just been survival, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the existential aspect of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you the foundation to just work off of. And if that's where you start, well, then you're in complete control of everything after
mm-hmm.
that. You're in complete control of every direction you take,
mm-hmm.
everything you build.
Right.
From
right.
that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And if you are to live your life as the best person you can be, that in and of itself is going to reduce the suffering. If you're not doing anything, if you don't do anything bad, you don't even have to do anything that great. But if you're not doing anything that's bad, then that in and of itself will allow life to be tolerable. At least tolerable. And then from there, you can make it better. So I think one of the best ways to accomplish that is, like we just said, stop doing what you shouldn't do. Just, if everyone could just start there, maybe have some humility, and accept advice, if it's coming as constructive advice, don't think we know everything. So starting with basics, that, hey, I still have a lot to learn. If someone offers me valuable advice, try to have humility. Try to, if they have something valuable, accept that and try to apply it to your own life. And if you want something, you can have it. You just, you might have to reorientate your life a little bit, and you're going to have to make some changes. But, if you want something, reorientate your life and create attainable goals to where it slowly brings you closer to making that happen. And then, so now, not only are you not doing anything bad, but now you decided that you wanted to do something, you created attainable goals, and now you're moving towards that thing. So now you're on a journey, right? And once you set up the criteria and decide what you're going to do on a daily basis, And what you're not going to do on a daily basis, don't do the things that are screwing you up, and if you measure this criteria out, it's often going to correlate with the things that you're doing wrong too. And, there's other ways to realize that you're doing something wrong too. We all have a conscience, and explain that, we have something inside of us that tells us, don't do that. And it's like, okay, where the hell's that coming from? People of different religions might relate it to that. They might, a Catholic may say, hey, that's God himself speaking to you, depending on what religion you may find yourself following. But so, we have that to go off of, which is pretty good. That's a pretty good tool. And there was one other thing before we move off that topic, is that we all have this deeply rooted system. Scientifically, it could also it would point to that this system is ancient, right? Because it's located deeply in the brain, for most people in the left hemisphere, but that's your dopamine production, right? So we'll call it a dopamine system. So you have this dopamine system that in setting attainable goals for yourself, every time you reach a goal, you activate this dopamine. And, if you give yourself a goal to go towards, and you, like we said, write down some criteria, build yourself a plan, attainable goals. And as you're on this journey, the dopamine system itself will actually be activated if you decide that you want something, you decide that you want to go somewhere or be different in some way. That actually will activate dopamine. And it'll also be activated while you're going there, So, okay, you got rid of these things that you're doing things wrong. You got rid of those. Now you established a goal, and you are literally giving yourself positive emotions simply heading in that direction. So it's, you could argue, does it, even if you're not sure if it's the right thing, but if it's something good, it's something that benefits your life and has the ability to benefit people's lives around you, well, then you may as well just shoot for that, because, every time you hit a benchmark, it's going to give you a massive amount of fulfillment in life,
And something you keep saying is setting that criteria. And I couldn't agree more. I think maybe the single best thing I ever did for myself was literally sit down for about 1 hour. The initial time, there was other pockets later on that I did this, but literally sat down for 1 hour. And I did this at about age 26, 27. And I thought about what the absolute perfect 52, 55-year-old male looked like as a human, as a man. And everything about him. How did he walk? How was he groomed? How did he talk? Did he cuss? What topics did he focus on? How did he dress? What was he doing in his life? And I envisioned, just in my, not truly just my ideal, what I thought was the perfect human being, within reason. He's not going to be Superman and flying around and avoiding kryptonite, but just a realistic, ideal human being.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided from that moment on, it's like, okay, if I want to be that guy or close to that guy at 52, 55,
mm-hmm.
every day is practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, I know I don't dress up much now, but there was 2-3 years there where if we went out, we were wearing a sport coat,
mm-hmm.
Iron dress shirt, sport coat, nice jeans, nice shoes,
mm-hmm.
Or a full suit, pocket squares. We actually went into the science of it, the studying of the color coordination, fit,
mm-hmm.
the function of it, contrasting mm-hmm. patterns. We went fairly deep into understanding style. And like I said, it doesn't show now because I don't follow it, but
right.
But the only reason, or at least the main reason for that, was because that gentleman was very nicely dressed, and he wasn't arrogant or conceited in any way. He was actually very humble, but very proud, very sure of himself, very put together. And so, yeah, I love what you're saying about laying out that criteria. And the sooner you do it, the better. I heard some crazy thing. I don't mean to take up so much time here. Some crazy thing that, and this might be wrong, but a flight or a plane in flight reorients itself like every 20 seconds. Like it gets off course just enough every 20 seconds where that's how often it adjusts in autopilot.
Interesting.
And if you don't have a goal, then you'll never know if you're going to make it. You'll never know if you're not making it.
And how would you adjust?
Yeah, like
what would you adjust?
Exactly. And why would you adjust it? You don't, you've got nothing to adjust it based on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say based on what you're saying, or going off of what you're saying, create that criteria, and the sooner you create it, the better.
Yeah, we've all got a dopamine system at our disposal, and why wouldn't you want to use that,
Your own neurological positive feedback loop.
Yeah. I mean, activate it, press the button, activate it. And while you activate it, you're, as we were kind of talking, you're going from one place to the other. You're setting up a criteria, obtainable goals, you're activating that system. And, one of the components throughout that journey is, the objects that are in your way. And so I think one of the most important things to talk about when you do talk about the objects is that they usually cause an emotional imbalance when a human, what an example would be, but you got a goal, you're gonna make it happen this way, and something doesn't go your way, and the body emotional response system will actually produce negative chemicals. So an exact opposite of dopamine. And usually it'll cause, it varies depending on the situation, how serious is the situation. You're most likely going to be anxious. Perhaps if it's a big enough situation, you'll be depressed post situation. It's a log in the road, right? And so see where I want to go with this. So what those obstacles are doing, and they're disrupting, the structure that we, essentially perceive our life and the direction it's supposed to be going and how it's supposed to be going. It's like impulse pleasure is a huge issue for that. Back when I was younger, I'd lift weights, I'd do all these things correctly for so long. I'd follow diet restrictions, and then I would be completely upset post, impulse pleasure. Maybe it was drinking or, and I could justify it. I've worked hard, I'm going to relax, but be careful for impulse pleasures because they will throw you off. And usually the result of that is negative emotion. And then that can cloud your whole journey. And, you probably be in great need of, what'd you call that, adjustment, or the autopilot on the airplane, reconfigure. So just be aware of that. We forget about the chemical productions of the body a lot of the time, and they're very basic, and a lot of us actually know about it already, but we don't think about it all the time. And it's like, it should be thought about way more than it is, I feel, Yeah,
and that might be the biggest thing between those who actually hit their goals and those who don't. Is your ability to suppress immediate gratification for long-term gratification.
Exactly. Yeah. it's easy. That's the easiest way to do it is, an obstacle presents itself. You can either sweep it under the rug or you can deal with it, but it does add up if you continually impulse pleasure as one example. Maybe you think about it as sweeping it under the rug. Once again, you give in to whatever it is. It's just, you'll have to clean up that mess eventually. It'll just keep building. And I think one of the best ways to keep on track, successful people being a great model of this, is that they've all got routines. Having no routine increases the probability of dysregulating the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythms, it's responsible for regulating our mood. So science shows that if you can keep a good schedule, wake up at the same time, eat a really good breakfast every morning, take your, whatever supplements, vitamins that, you take, do it regularly. Physical activity. And that's a massive component, to keep you on track, keep you from faltering on a long-term journey, especially. It's not a short journey. This isn't a dash. This is, if you're lucky, decades and decades worth of years that, you have to sustain yourself over that time. So, it's like your skill set is only going to advance as much as your mindset, and I would say the food and your diet and your routine plays into both of those almost equally, physically and mentally. There's plenty of studies that show that children who get more nutritious food than malnutrition children are scoring higher, as far as aptitude, entry level schooling, and that children can activate they can activate a higher aptitude level with more nutrition. So, basics, really, it's just basics, basics that really don't get practiced enough, So, yeah, so, I mean, hell, at this point, you're doing your very best to, do the things that your conscience is telling you not to do. And you've got a good idea. You sat down with yourself and discovered a little bit about who you are and what you want. And like you said, with a gentleman who dressed well, you can literally have all those things. You can literally create your life as an artist would draw a picture. There's nothing different, So if you can envision it, if you can build yourself a attainable set of goals and create a criteria that, with will you not compromise. And over time, if you can do these things consistently, you'll find yourself living an improved life. And, we talked about, the obstacles that you're going to come up to along the way. And I think one of the biggest obstacles that many of us have in common is the returning past thoughts, and these would be things like something that, a thought that's happened before and it's happening again and again and again and again and again. It may even be in your dreams as well as every waking moment, or any waking moment you could have this thought, right? So that's your mind and, your soul perhaps that's trying to send you a message, and it will not stop until that message is received, answered, and dealt with. Usually it's just your body and your mind's way of telling you that for us to move on, for us to really achieve what we want to achieve to our fullest potential, we need to make resolve in certain areas. it takes us from the present to the past, and it's a very bad thing to be stuck in the past, and for that matter, the future as well. So to be present as well. Obviously easier said than done, but answer those calls, I guess. If your mind is sending you messages over and over again, answer the call, resolve the issue, and perhaps that's what you need to move on to the next step in your vision and everything that you have laid out for your your life, essentially the life that you imagine for yourself. So from there, how do you find resolve? And I think something that's not utilized anywhere near enough and should be utilized and be taken very seriously is meaningful conversation. And a lot of those issues, their resolve is simply you needing to have a conversation, either with yourself in regards to, an idea or object or thought or action that you're doing. Maybe it's something that only involves you. But if it involves someone else as well, have that conversation. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, your world, and if you believe that we're all connected and the things that we do can have an effect on everyone around us, if you believe in that, if you don't do the things that you're supposed to do, your world, which in a way is everyone's world, the world, it'll crumble. The world will fall into decay if everyone doesn't take responsibility for their own lives. And if everyone could, answer that call, just a little bit more, and the whole world, could quite possibly become a much better place than it already is. Certainly not complaining. We live in a very unique time, and I would say that we live in the best time that perhaps has ever existed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and if you think about it, if every single person gave 1% more, like think about the contrast between everyone giving 1% less, times that by 7 billion, what effect that would have on existence for everyone, versus if everyone gave 1% more.
Yeah.
And it comes down to, everyone just doing your part, but why not? Why not be the artist of your life and start every single day, put one more stroke on that canvas? Why not? It's like, you're here already.
Yeah.
It's like, you're here already.
You can go one of two ways. You can live your life to where you're slowly subjecting yourself to constant meaningless suffering, or you can take control, do the things that you need to do to, paint that picture for yourself.
We're out of time.
Really?
Yeah. It goes fast.
Wow.
Yeah. Part two.
Part two.
A part two.
That's it. Awesome.
Right, dude.
Nice.